Welcome to Straight from the US, the first program in English by Widoobiz, the French media for entrepreneurs. I'm Aurelien Cottet. Today I'm hosting the technical brain behind one of the most used ticketing platforms in the world that already edited more than 100 million tickets, representing more than $1 billion. Welcome to Renaud Visage, the CTO of Eventbrite. Renaud, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Many of our listeners have already heard about how Eventbrite started, but they probably don't know much about your story before Eventbrite. Tell us more about your American experience on your entrepreneur background that combine your two passions, photo and architecture.
So I always wanted to go to the US at some point. I think from the early age of 7 or 8, I think I can remember watching the TV series like Starsky and Hutch and all these American TV series that really, there was something wild about the US that I was attracted to, some rawness, some future thinking as well that I could see transpire through these types of TV series. So I think I already thought about going there at some point. And then I had the opportunity as my last year at Central Lyon to go study at Cornell University, which I think we share that experience.
Exactly. I do share the experience of studying abroad, and especially in the US at Georgia Tech. Exactly.
So I took full advantage of this opportunity. I spent a year in Cornell. It was a very great experience, exactly like I thought it would be, the great campus with old buildings, new buildings, a lot of people coming from all over the world, these giant libraries where you can spend days looking at different types of books and learning new subjects. I didn't study computer science. I studied civil engineering there. I studied geology, I studied geotechnical engineering, nothing related to computers. I was always interested in computers. I had one when I was 8. It was one of the first Thomson computers. I don't know if you remember that days.
Ago.
Yes. But I didn't really want to go full-time into sitting behind a computer and being inside all the time. So I wanted to travel the world, and I thought that civil engineering could let me do that. So that's how I started my career. I worked for an environmental consulting firm in San Francisco.
Oh yeah, so far away from Eventbrite.
Pretty far, yeah. I had no connection to that world yet.
Yeah.
But being located in San Francisco, I saw the energy that was coming from the dot-com days. I saw these great companies being formed in 6 months or less. I saw these IPOs going through, and I felt that I wanted to be part of that world. At the beginning of my civil engineering career, I was spending a lot of time in the field. I really liked that. That was fun. But then eventually I started spending more and more time inside in the office, working on reports, working on CAD drawings. So I was spending all my day inside eventually. And I thought, if I'm going to do that, might as well do something more fun. That's when the web came about. So I learned on my own how to program. I applied that to the company I was working for. So I built an intranet for them that interfaced with their accounting system. So I really took upon myself to get trained, to learn all these new technologies. They were constantly evolving. They were not taught in school because the schools are always a few years behind. So there was really no place to learn. You had to do it on your own, buying books and practicing. And in 2000, I decided to switch from civil engineering to software. So I joined a youngish startup that was doing photo sharing. I've had always been interested in photography. My dad was a nature photographer. That's how he lived all his life, traveling the world and taking pictures of animals. I've always been amazed at looking at his pictures when he came back from his travels. So I've always been involved in photography, and it was a natural combination for me of the technology and the photography to join this photo sharing company.
So your involvement in Eventbrite is the result of a meeting with, if I'm not wrong, Kevin and Julia Arts. Do you want to share that extraordinary meeting that in a way changed your life?
Definitely changed my life. It's actually a result of me working for that photo sharing startup in 2000. I worked with several engineers there, and the company went or was acquired by Sony. Part of the company was acquired by Sony, and the rest of the company was let go. So I stayed working with Sony, but also I kept in touch with all the engineers who left. And it's actually one of these engineers, he's my friend now, went to work for another company that Kevin had started earlier, which is called Zoom. And at the end of 2005, when Kevin left Zoom to start Eventbrite, I asked around to the people he knew, and my friend recommended me as a person who you could trust to build great websites.
So that's why he's a friend now.
No, he was a friend before, but he's a much better friend, and he reminds me every time of what I owe him.
Oh, so that's you give him some money every month? I mean, like
he got some stock at some point, so he's not complaining about that.
I'm just teasing you on that.
But yes, it was a chance encounter. We met a couple of times, and then we started working together. Kevin and Julia are not technical, but they know what it takes to build a great company. I know what it takes to build great websites. The photo sharing sites that we built was used by millions of people, had millions of images that we stored and had to deal with. So I had been exposed to the world of high-scale websites, and that's what we wanted to build with Eventbrite.
So in fact, it was a magical meeting because Kevin and Julia needed someone like you, and in a way, it was the perfect opportunity for you to.
Definitely, I think it was the
magic,
right meeting at the right time. They were open to having someone they didn't know work with them. They had a lot of friends they could have picked from, but they must have all been busy at the time. Kevin is very well networked in the Valley, so it was taking a chance on their part of going to work with a stranger, and on my part as well. But
especially because you were French?
Yes, especially that. They probably regret that part because French people are don't have sometimes the best image over there, but they make fun of me all the time, and that's fine.
That's
like
good.
That. It's a friendly camaraderie.
That's good. As a French person, I'm curious to understand why Eventbrite decided to launch its European office in London. I mean, have you thought about Paris too?
I always think about Paris. I always wanted Eventbrite to be in French and used all over France. That's my nationalistic side. But the reality is that London was already our third biggest city when we started thinking about international expansion. So we had to have people on the ground there just to care for all the organizers that were trusting us with their business in the market. So that's the first hire we made. We hired a community manager to take care of this group of organizers. And then we added customer support. And again, it was mostly for the UK market because it was growing so fast and we had such a big user base already. So it wasn't really a question of strategy or where does it make more sense. It just was logical for us to be there. In the long term, of course, I'd love to have offices everywhere and people on the ground selling the products and making sure everybody's happy using it and answer all their questions. But the practicality of international expansion is that it's very expensive.
Exactly.
It's really hard to make sure everybody communicates the right way, make sure everybody is on the same page. Already with 2 offices, we are 3 now because we purchased a company in South America.
Oh, yeah.
So we have 3 different offices in 3 different parts of the world, and that takes a lot of effort, making sure they all run smoothly, that they exchange with each other and internally as well. So we'll very careful about where we expand and make sure we have the right reason to do so.
Yes, because we see you traveling more and more in France. So I was thinking it was more like nostalgia, or if you had any plans to open the next office in Paris.
I've always spent a lot of time in France, even when we started. So that's not something new. I think I'm a lot more involved now that I have a bit more free time to go about and advise other startups or be a mentor at Le Camping and other accelerators out there. That's something I do want to bring back. My experience in the Valley has been tremendous for me,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of the contacts that I've made, a lot of the learnings that I've had, growing a company from 3 people to now 330,
Wow, that's a big growth.
can be useful, I think, for a lot of people here. So that's why I'm spending more time in Europe in general. I'm also involved in the UK and Germany quite a bit.
That's a good transition for me to know how do you see the startup scene in France? I mean, its future at the international level.
Well, I think a lot of people agree that there's a lot of talent in France, especially on the engineering side. There's a lot of great research, great technology companies coming out of France. I don't think we're as good on the product side, creating products that are engaging and that sell well abroad. Gaining the US market is still a big landmark for any French company. I think that's a required step if you want to grow into the big leagues, just because the US market is so important for access to capital and eventually a potential IPO.
Why that? You think it's because we are not that good in English?
No, I think a lot of French people are good at English. Not everyone, unfortunately. That's something we can have the schools improve. Yes. But I don't think it matters. I don't think it's because you speak English well that you're going to succeed or not. It's the level of ambition that you have, the experience that you have before, the contacts that you might have as well with the US if you want to go there, or even here. I mean, a lot of companies keep all their development team in France, even when they move officially to the US. So I don't see it impossible to create a very large company that has most of their employees in France and maybe a few people elsewhere.
You spoke about Germany and London, and so I can imagine you have an overview of what is going on in the startup scene in Europe. How do you see France in this environment, and where are our weaknesses and what are our strengths?
I think, well, there's 3 major cities, I would say, in Europe.
Yeah.
Like London, which is pretty far ahead of both Paris and Berlin in terms of the ecosystem, the closeness to the US, the access to capital, and the structures in place. There's a lot of both public and private initiatives to grow the startup ecosystem in the UK, which are not quite there in France yet. But I see a lot of positive efforts being taken. The opening of NUMA, I think, consolidates a lot of the things that were a bit more dispersed and not as clear. I think we have to make a clear picture from the outside of what the French ecosystem is. And before that, it was not as precise, not as well-defined. So I think that's a step in the right direction. Having the government push as well to make it clearer what impacts entrepreneurs or not in the laws that they're trying to pass will go a long way towards removing the fear that if you start your company here, you're not going to stay here in the long term because you have too high taxes, or all the perception from the outside that are somewhat true and somewhat false. So being clear on what it means to be an entrepreneur in France, I think will really help tremendously overall.
Especially to attract company outside France to start their business in France instead of London or Berlin.
That's one thing where we lag a bit behind, I think. It's on the attractiveness of Paris as an international place of business. When I go to Berlin, 60% of the teams that are in the accelerators are coming from outside of Germany. When I go to the French accelerators, it's more like 10% or less. So becoming an attractive place worldwide requires that you attract different teams from different countries. And I don't think we're doing our promotion very well of the programs that we have, which are really good. I mean, there's great accelerators here, but they need to be attracting people from all over the world so that we can learn from the best, we can have the best, and they can think about establishing their business in France after the program.
So I have a last question before the no taboo time. You mentioned that you are a mentor for different startups. Have you thought about jumping in one of them and say that's my new challenge?
I always think about what's next, of course, but I'm still fully involved with Eventbrite. I think we have a long way to go. We have so much of the market to capture. We have all these big events that are being organized on antiquated technology that we can replace. That's a huge market. I think we can grow into a much bigger company. And you gave some numbers earlier, but we're already at 150 million tickets and 2 billion in total sales.
Oh, okay.
So you see the acceleration going.
Yes.
And I think we can accelerate even more by being more present and more local in many of the markets we're currently in, expanding to other markets as well. Asia, we haven't touched yet. South America, we're just starting. We are not really into the bigger events, the stadium-size events. We want to be there as well. So that's a lot of challenges for a company, but a lot of excitement as well. So I don't think my story has ended yet.
Good. So now we're going to reach the no taboo time. So, as you can see, I have this little game that we played when we were a kid. In French, we call it the cocotte en papier, and I think in the US, we call it the teller paper with questions. So, give me a number between 1 to 5.
3.
1, 2, 3. Which color?
Blue. I always pick blue.
What great idea did you have, but someone else beat you to it?
I always have ideas, and 2 weeks later, there's a startup doing the same thing. But one in particular can't really. One recent that my girlfriend's involved in open data, and I thought that if open data was going to be successful, you would need some central repository of all the data available from anywhere in the world that you could easily query. And I just read, I think it was in TechCrunch Disrupt in Berlin that a company won the competition doing exactly that. So that's...
So they beat you at it.
Yeah, it beat me at it.
So we have time for a second one. So, which number?
5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Red.
Red. Up. If you had to do it again, what would you do differently?
Not too much. I think
It's true that when we see your background, I mean...
No, but also we learned a lot doing it. So it's easy to go back and think that you know so much now, but the truth is you are always learning. And having done it once, I think these learnings were critical to our success, and I wouldn't change too much in the way we grew. Of course, I would love to have more growth and faster success in general, but the reality is that we're a B2B platform mostly because we have to attract organizers, and the growth in this space is always a bit slower than a Facebook, for example, that could grow to billions of users fairly quickly. So I'm pretty satisfied, very satisfied with the way we have developed so far, and there's not too much I would change.
That's a good conclusion. Live and learn. So thank you, Renaud, for being here today with us. And you can count on me to promote Eventbrite in France, to grow your numbers. It was Aurelien Cottet straight from the US by Widoobiz.